Hello, welcome to another podcast. We've been kind of out of it for a little while, mainly because of the holidays, and we've had so much going on. As you can tell, I've got a cold.
And I just had one.
Yeah, we're kind of the walking wounded right now. I have a cold, and the other day Teresa bit the shit out of her tongue so badly that it's just, really, she's just in constant pain.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know you could bruise your tongue, but I managed.
it's very possible I saw it with my own eyes. But anyways, there's been a whole lot of stuff going on lately at the movies. I just thought it would be a good time to start talking about some of it. This is probably not the only podcast that's going to cover it, being that it's the end of the year and we haven't done a podcast in about a month.
Has it been that long?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's been something like that. It's been a while, and there's been a lot happen. So we're just gonna go ahead and in this episode, we're just gonna talk about one thing, and I think it requires talking about in an entire episode, or as long as we talk about it anyways, and we'll talk about other stuff in other episodes
Okey-dokey.
because that seems more.
And what would we be talking about?
Star Wars.
Uh-huh.
It's no secret. The Star Wars: The Force Awakens came out December 18th. Was it the 18th? Yeah. And of course, it's breaking box office records. Right now, it's number 2 domestically. It just passed Titanic, and it's about 80 million or so away from beating Avatar. I think it'll do it. And worldwide, I think it's number 8 right now. And in order to beat that record, it requires another billion, which, if you factor in that it's not even opened in China yet, it doesn't open in China until January 9th.
Oh, how come?
They just get movies later than we do for some reason. It will. I think so. I think it'll beat Avatar. I really do. Because everybody was naysaying it the whole time, saying Star Wars, but it's making almost 30 million per day.
That's crazy.
Yep. And obviously it makes more on the weekends, but it's making lots of money right now. So let's, being that some time has passed, I guess we should go ahead and warn up front. We're not going to concern ourselves with spoilers. I think the movie's been out a good amount of time. Of course, I want to say up front that there will be spoilers in this whole thing, but
if you haven't seen it and you care, don't listen.
Yeah, If you haven't seen it and you care about not being spoiled, then don't listen to what we're about to say. But also, the movie's been out for a while now, and some of us have gone and seen it at least 3 times. I don't know who that would be. So, it's your fault if you're listening to this and you're spoiled on the movie. That's your problem. But anyways, before we get into it, Star Wars, of course, the hype surrounding the whole Star Wars thing, it's completely overblown. I would agree with that. I think it's a multicultural phenomenon, and that's a great thing. But I think the advertisement, the merchandising, and everything that's gone into it is completely overblown. Yes. And it's one thing to have toys, but it's also another to have a can of soup.
I was just gonna say that the soup and the makeup and the jewelry and what is there gonna be next? Darth Vader tampons? I mean, it's gone too far.
Oh Lord. Will they be black? Will they come in black? Smooth black?
Yeah, maybe.
Will they go when you put when you put the applicator in? Anyways, I'll speak for myself. I saw the first Star Wars on TV when I was a kid.
As did I.
It came on. I don't even remember what channel it came on, but anyways, that's where I first saw it. And I don't even think I saw the whole thing, because eventually my mom, I think it was Mom, got me or it might have been Dad. I don't remember who got it, but I got the VHS collection of the 3 movies for Christmas one year.
From like 1990, what was that?
I don't know. It was
4 or 5,
something like that, mid-90s or something like that. And I fell in love with those movies. And then, as I got older, I started recognizing that These are not just, movies. Eventually, when you start learning about filmmaking and stuff, you realize the craft that went into them and everything as far as the filmmaking itself, the writing, the special effects, the acting, and everything and so forth. That they were in today's world where anything can be a hit, really, and there's no substance put into a lot of it. These movies had substance, and they were very carefully crafted movies. The movies touched me when I was a kid, and I never was a Star Wars fanboy. I think I have to put that out there too. I just loved the movies.
Did you ever get any of the toys?
No.
No.
I don't know. I don't think I did.
You're too young, really, for the height of the toy. That was when the movies were first out.
I think Return of the Jedi was when it really reached the toy zenith. When the first Star Wars came out in '77, they weren't prepared for the merchandising. George Lucas famously said that he, wanted the merchandising rights because even though he didn't believe it was going to be a big hit, he thought that he could make money off of merchandising from it. And not only was he wrong about it not being a hit, but the merchandising went through the roof. Mm-hmm. So much so that they had done a deal with Kenner Toys, and it was the empty box sort of campaign. Mm-hmm. They didn't have enough product to give everyone toys, so for Christmas that year, a lot of kids got an empty box with a certificate, and the box had a little diorama of characters. It wasn't a real it was a cardboard diorama. There was nothing. It was just like a picture on cardboard, and
matte painting sort of on
pretty much,
box.
Pretty much. And it came with a certificate, and you can get this
rain check, yeah,
as a rain check, more or less. So that's just a testament to how caught off guard they were. They weren't prepared for the amount of money this movie was going to make and how popular it was. And then Empire Strikes Back came along, and some people say Empire Strikes Back wasn't as well received as it eventually was in retrospect. And I guess I can see that if you go to that movie and it has such a downer ending. I guess I can see that, but even since I was a kid, I always thought that was a fantastic movie, and probably the most well-made of the 3 original movies. I didn't get that at all. And then Return of the Jedi came along, and Return of the Jedi is the most flawed of the original trilogy. I think mainly because they started directly going after kids, and it weakened a lot of, and also a rehashed storyline about another Death Star, but we'll get into that in
Nobody's talking about that right now.
Well, they are.
Are they?
I think people are pointing that out, but we'll get into that in a second. So, those movies came along and opened my worldview. I remember the VHS opening being very powerful, and before the movie came on, there was it was a sort of a mini commercial for all the Star Wars movies. I guess if you bought them separately, like say you bought Star Wars, you hadn't bought Empire Return,
right? You
could be like, oh, they also have the other ones. I think I'll go buy the other ones. But I got the set with all of them.
So did I.
And they all had an interview that Leonard Maltin conducted with George Lucas. But the little commercial at the beginning was one of the things that got me thinking about filmmaking. Because I remember distinctly the words. It was like 3 timeless adventures that changed movie making forever. And it always stuck in my head. And it was always like real powerful in my mind.
Yeah.
That it was one of the things that got me interested in filmmaking. And anyways, what's your history with Star Wars?
Well, I was born the year it came out. Mm-hmm. And I saw it for the first time on TV. And I don't remember what channel it was. It may have been ABC. But I have a beta tape somewhere where we recorded it, and it was a big event. It was the first time it was on TV, and they had little interview things and red carpet, and it was a big thing. Mm-hmm. And so since I had that recorded off the TV, that's what I watched over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even see... I would see parts of Empire Strikes Back when my cousins would watch it and stuff, but he was 6 years older than I was, so... He was more into it. It was kind of scary to me. And then, of course, when Jedi came out, I was all about the Ewoks because I was a little girl.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was a two-sided thing.
Oh, yeah.
Some people of a certain age were like, oh, they got these cutesy little Ewoks.
But if you're a little kid.
But if you're a little kid, you're like, these Ewoks are cute.
They're so cute.
And Ewoks are really ridiculously cute, especially Wicket. Yeah, he's just really cute.
Well, I have a Princess Nisa doll in the attic that I bought for my birthday.
Okay. But anyways.
Really, the first one is the one I've seen the most often. The other two I've seen much less.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see people seeing the first one more than the rest of them. I've probably seen the first two more than I've seen Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Mainly, just because Return of the Jedi is the weakest of the three, and even with there's a lot of really great stuff in it, like especially the whole confrontation between the Emperor and Luke and Darth Vader is really well done. That whole section is really good. But then you got the recycled Death Star stuff, and the whole opening of the movie feels like it's a different movie, and it's wrapping up a storyline from the previous film.
Yeah.
But it takes like half an hour to do it, and it's not like integrated into the rest of the movie organically.
Mesh well.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, here's a half an hour of rescuing Han Solo. Now let's go.
Yeah.
For the rest of the movie. Oh, well, not really, because he goes in to see Yoda, and after his confrontation, well, not confrontation, but after his getting back together with Yoda and then Obi-Wan, then the movie really begins. The new movie begins when he shows up and they're like, we're going to destroy this new Death Star.
So do you think they should have tacked that onto the second one somehow? Would that have flowed better, do you think?
No, I think it ended perfectly. I think that's the way it should have ended, but I think they could have made the Han Solo and Yoda and Obi-Wan thing flow a little bit better into this and integrate together into the story, a little bit better than it did. But that being said, I'll take Return of the Jedi over the prequels any day.
Oh, absolutely.
I was so excited for the prequels. I remember watching the Leonard Maltin interviews with George, and George was talking about we're doing special editions. Of course, I didn't know what that was at that time because they hadn't come along yet. We're going to be doing special editions of the 3 movies.
And those came out before the prequels,
Yeah, they
right?
came out before the prequels.
I went to see the Star Wars special edition. And I am not an expert on any kind of filmmaking or anything. But I noticed every added CGI effect and how crappy it looked.
Yeah.
And it just looked bad. And I thought, my gosh, this guy's got more money than anybody to afford the absolute cream of the crop digital effects, and it just looked like a bad Photoshop job.
Yeah.
It just didn't fit. It was just ugh.
Yeah, the additions in the special, and they keep getting worse with every new release. Like when it comes out when it came out on DVD, it had a whole bunch of changes, and then when it came out on Blu-ray, it had even more changes. So it's just ridiculous. It wouldn't be so bad if we had access to the original versions.
You fiddle with it if you want, but let the original product be there too.
Yeah, that's not so bad. Like Ridley Scott, when he did the final cut of Blade Runner, when he wanted a definitive version of the movie, he offers up in the box set that came in 4 other versions of the movie. There's like the theatrical version, which is some people love it, some people don't, and there's the director's cut, which is not technically a director's cut. It was a glorified work print version. The original full-length work print version of the movie, and then the international version, which had a little more gore and stuff like that in it, I believe, and played more like the director's cut also. And then the final cut that they did, which he considers the definitive version of the movie. But you got all these different versions. If you like one, you can always watch one at any time. You don't have to watch this final cut if you don't like it.
Right, yeah.
Because the one thing about the Blade Runner thing is that there's a voiceover playing throughout it in the theatrical version, and a lot of people said that that's terrible, and Ridley Scott later took it out. So you got these versions of this movie without it, and you can kind of pick and choose which one, whichever one you want to watch. So that's the way it should be with a lot of movies. Star Wars, The Warriors is another one where you can't get the original version of the movie anymore. But yeah, the special editions, they just added stuff in there it had nothing to do with improving the plot.
No, absolutely.
Or anything like that. They even added a scene back in with Jabba the Hutt, and Jabba looked fucking awful.
He did.
He looked awful. And not only was he awful, but he was a completely different character than what he wound up being in Return of the Jedi. Like, he treats Han Solo like he's his buddy. Like they're buddies or something, you know. And he sort of gives him a vague threat, like, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to get you. But it's weak sauce compared to, you know, the bastard that he ended up being in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So that's that addition. And it also, not only that, but it repeats the same information that's we've already heard in the Greedo scene. So if you're going to do a special edition of that and you want that scene, remove the previous scene.
Right.
Because you're repeating the same information.
Superfluous.
It's superfluous. It doesn't matter. So anyways, I was really excited.
I wasn't somehow.
I was really excited. I was like, oh, they're going to finally going to get to see where Anakin Skywalker came from and all that. And I didn't know anything about that. I've never read any of the books, any of the comic books.
No.
I've sort of played some of the video games, but not really. I didn't know any of that history. I just knew the 3 movies.
Yeah, me too, pretty much.
And so the prequels came out.
I did not see them.
Well, Phantom Menace came out, and I was in denial about. I was.
Okay.
I think a lot of us. I think a lot of people were. I think a lot of people really wanted to like it. They were like, it came out and it was kind of not very good, but had a really cool lightsaber battle at the end, and it had a pretty cool villain, even though they kill him off in the first movie. So you were like, well, maybe this one will be not very good, but the next one will be better. And it wasn't. The next one was awful. I think the second one is worse than either of the one that came before or after it. That horrible love story. It was just bad. And then Revenge of the Sith had some of the worst line readings in any of the movies. You are so beautiful. It's only because I'm so in love.
Oh, gag.
I know. He's like, no, it's only because I'm so in love with you.
Oh,
it's like, what?
In a room and yuck.
I'm like, fuck this movie.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. So
it's like Hallmark card, treacly, nauseatingly sweet baloney.
Yeah, and it's not even I don't know. It's just he doesn't understand human relationships, and I think that's part of George Lucas's personality, and a lot of that people started to pick up on it and realize that the original movies, even though George came with the ideas, they weren't technically his movies.
Not 100%.
Not 100%. They were more collaborations because he had less creative control, and he had more people under him that were better filmmakers than him that made the movies what they were.
Made him look good.
It made him look good, and everybody gave the director all the credit for years, even though he didn't direct the second or the third one. He oversaw a lot of it, and he was very much involved in the editing process and everything, but he wasn't the sole creator of those movies, all 3 of those movies. And so when he had complete creative control and hired people under him that were yes people,
yes,
they did everything that he asked, the movies were horrible. And it's a shame because, he even a lot of the values of filmmaking that he subscribed to kind of went out the window with the prequels. Like, he was always adamant that films should be preserved the way that they are, and yeah, he even went to Congress to combat during the 80s when Ted Turner wanted to colorize. Yes,
thing.
he even went to Congress over it and not testified, but got up and defended these movies and said, the director's original vision should be preserved, kept intact, and also that there was another. He was talking about special effects and how special effects are just a tool for the storytelling, and that they could get in the way of the storytelling, and that a story without a special effects without a good story would be boring.
Hello,
and
pop
bad.
Kettle.
Yes, yeah. And then later on, he did the thing. So it's like he was just more or less exposed for being a bad filmmaker, more or less, and it's a shame. So that all happened, and he killed Star Wars.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Me.
Myself included.
Yeah. I didn't even see him, and he killed Star Wars.
Yeah.
Just because I heard about him.
I had to show him to you.
Yes.
Because
you forced me to watch
You
them.
had to know. You had to know.
I knew it was bad. I just didn't know it was that bad.
You know, it was really bad.
It's bad. But not even the fun bad, because I love bad movies that are fun bad.
Yeah.
But this was just a chore to sit through.
Mm-hmm. Especially the second one. The second one, like, you can kind of get through the first one, you can get through the third one, but that second one is just fucking painful.
Yeah.
It really is. So anyway, that happened. Star Wars was essentially dead for a lot of people. It wasn't for many people. There were still, like, Star Wars fanboys that loved those movies and loved the merchandising, loved all the cartoons and everything that came out of all that. And I wasn't a part of that. I just wanted a good Star Wars movie. Which brings us to Disney buying all the rights to Lucasfilm, essentially. They can make more Star Wars movies. They can make more Indiana Jones movies. They've talked about doing another Indiana Jones movie. I prefer that they didn't. But
me too.
Because that one's kind of different, because Harrison Ford is so iconic as Indiana Jones, and the last one didn't work that they tried to make. So I don't see that one working. I don't see them trying to being successful with that one.
Probably not. If he could somehow have the same charisma and attitude he had in his younger years, then yeah, because he still looks good. He seems to be in pretty good shape, and it could be an older Indy and be an interesting story. But the last one was just bad.
Yeah, I don't think he's capable of that. I think he's a bit of a curmudgeon, and I think there's a lot of older actors like that are curmudgeons now, that you can't get that same kind of energy out of them anymore, and same kind of wherewithal. I just don't think it's there.
Yeah.
So anyways, Disney bought Lucasfilm, more or less, from George Lucas for billions of dollars.
4, I believe.
4 or 6 billion or something like that. And they announced that they were going to make more Star Wars movies, and we were all like, huh, okay. Well,
that could be good.
I guess, you know.
Maybe I'll care again.
Maybe. And then and when they announced that they were going to make an episode 7, we were okay, but then more details just kept leaking out. J.J. Abrams is going to be the director. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
And then they're going to shoot it on film, on 35mm film. And you're like, oh, that's pretty awesome.
It's promising.
Yeah. And then, they're doing mostly practical effects on set. Oh, that's even better.
I'm getting excited.
Right, you know. And just more and more details kept slipping out about that, but it was still up in the air as to whether or not they could pull off a decent movie.
Right.
And one of the things that pissed off a lot of Star Wars fans was they announced that the expanded universe in the books and everything, they were going to ignore that. That was not canon, and it didn't matter for these movies that they were making. And everyone that was a fanboy just kind of shit their pants and said, oh, fuck you, you know. So that kind of rubbed some people the wrong way.
But I never read the books.
I never read the books. I never cared, so I was fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the same way. So, and then they shot it, and they worked on it for a while, and then the teaser trailers and the trailers started leaking out, and I cried watching the teaser trailer. And I'm like, that looks good. That looks promising. And it was just like a few shots. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. Just a few random shots, no context. It's sort of like the Batman trailer, the original Batman movie, when they put out a trailer for it. It had no music. It was just random shots. And it was sort of the same thing, where people had this idea in mind of what Batman was, like from the 60s cartoon and everything. And they were worried with Michael Keaton being cast, it was going to be a comedy and it wasn't going to give it any justice or anything like that. Gravitas. And then the trailer came along, and it grounded everybody's fears. Like, everybody was like, okay, this looks like a good movie. Same with this.
Yeah.
Trailers came along.
It plucked all the right heartstrings. The feeling was there. The soul was back.
Right. It was like, this looks like a movie. It looked great. And more trailers, TV spots, and then the merchandising. The merchandising was so fucking overblown for this movie that it was ridiculous. There were people that were saying, I don't even want to see the movie now because I can't escape Star Wars in any facet of my life. I think me and Chris talked about this in a previous podcast. Yeah. He's never seen any of the original movies.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris, if you're listening. He's never seen any of the original movies. He has no interest in seeing them because of the hype surrounding Star Wars.
Shoved down our throats constantly.
And it's ridiculous. Yes. It's like, I just want to see a good movie, guys. I don't care about all of this stuff that you're doing with all the merchandising and stuff. I don't care about lunch boxes. I don't care about books. I don't care about soup.
Well, see, that's where it went off the rails for me. It was, okay, have toys for kids, have lunch boxes, that's fine. But soup and makeup and, I mean, mascara, why? I mean, it's not going to make you look like any of the critters in the movie or anything. I mean, it's just silly.
Yeah,
and it's too much.
And it has nothing to do with the movie, really. Like you're sitting there and like, what kind of merchandising can I come up with this movie that makes sense? Posters, okay. Lunch boxes, okay. Mascara,
yeah, really, I know.
Yeah, you know that doesn't make any sense. So, the glut of merchandising was everywhere, and you couldn't escape it, no matter what you did. So that was ruining it for some people, I think.
It certainly. It didn't really reduce my desire to see it because I have history with growing up with it, and my cousin who had the toys and had a Chewbacca doll that I was terrified of when I was little, and he passed away, and I know how much he would have liked to see the movie, and so it there was a place for it in my heart. But yeah, I got sick of the commercials for everything under the sun that you could think of.
Yeah. Batteries and it was just
cars and
it was completely overblown. But yeah, I agree. It didn't lessen my excitement for the movie. I really wanted to see the movie.
But I did get sick of Star Wars as a product. I was like, enough. I want to see the movie and make my own opinion on it. And I went, because of some of the overblown stuff, I went in there preparing to not like BB-8. Mm-hmm. Because I thought he was just too damn cutesy. But he won me over.
Right. So the movie comes along. It premieres on a Tuesday. For screenings and stuff. People start seeing it. And an amazing thing happened.
Yeah. Nobody spoiled.
Nobody was... Well, I mean, there were assholes out there. But they were very much in the minority. People were being respectful. Nobody was posting spoilers on social media. There were people out there, but there were very few of them.
The vast majority of people were really good.
Yes, and we're not trying to ruin it for everybody else. And it was wonderful.
Yes.
But I had made the decision already that I was going to go on a social media blackout because I didn't want... I would still hop on just to see if I had a message, but I wouldn't scroll through my feed or anything like that.
You didn't want to see anything.
Right.
Well, I didn't, and none of my people spoiled me. The ones that saw it before I did, they didn't talk about it, except to go see it.
I was thankful that Bill didn't spoil it for me, because he had already known quite a bit about the movie before seeing it. And he was telling me that he knew, and I told him, no, don't tell me anything. And this was months ago, before a trailer even hit, that he knew a lot about it. Yeah. And I told him, well, I don't want to know. So, and also I think some details about the script leaked at some point, and I didn't go look at any of that. I didn't want to know. There's a thing in this world that I don't understand. And it's people wanting to have a movie spoiled for them. They want to know everything about it before going in to see it. And they lose that experience of seeing the movie, feeling the emotions and not knowing what's coming next. And it's part of why you go to the movies. You go for the experience and everything. And I don't understand people wanting to know everything about the movie before going to see it, because you lose that. And then you have people that do that. And they go see the movie, they've completely spoiled, and it has no effect on them. So they come out saying, oh, it sucked.
And then they bitch.
Yeah, oh, it sucked really bad. It's because, well, if you didn't know everything about it going in, you might have felt differently.
Yeah.
That being said, The Force Awakens came out. We didn't go see it opening day because, obviously, we knew what kind of craziness it was going to be. It had already, had something like 500 million or something like that in pre-ticket sales, or I don't know. I don't remember the number, but it was it beat all previous records.
Yeah.
So I knew I wasn't going to see it opening day as bad as I wanted to. We waited until Saturday the 19th. We caught the earliest showing that we could, and it was magic.
Yeah.
It was a magical movie, and I felt 10 years old again. And I wept.
He did.
At the end of the movie, I wept.
I cried when he fell apart.
I fell apart. I was weeping in my seat for a good part of 5 minutes.
Yeah, all the way through the credits.
Yeah, I don't remember looking at the credits.
No,
it was something when I went back and I watched the credits because I wasn't crying through the.
Yeah.
It felt so good to see a movie like that.
Yeah.
Which is it just doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Nothing like that happens. And you'll get a good movie every now and then, but you won't have a movie that's special like this one
recreates your childhood in your heart.
Right, and gives you a good glowing feeling inside.
Inside hug.
Yeah, and I couldn't get enough of it. I loved it so much that I've gone back to see it two more times. And
I've seen it one other time with you, but then I couldn't go the third time.
Probably a fourth time. I'm probably going to go back and see it again.
I'm surprised you aren't seeing it right now.
Well, we got to record a podcast. I mean, so anyways, I love the movie. I love it so much. It's probably my favorite movie of the year. And which Fury Road was probably going to be my favorite movie of the year until this came along. I had no idea I was going to love it so much, and I love every bit of it. It's not perfect, which we'll get into, but damn, is it a good movie? It's so well made, it's so well crafted, and the thing is, now that it's out, I've gone back and started reading reviews and started looking at details, like the past couple weeks, more details about what wasn't in the movie have been coming out.
Oh yeah.
And it could have been, it could have, there's some stuff that they had left in there would have weakened the movie. And you start realizing when you're reading that stuff that they really worked their asses off.
How careful they were.
And how careful and how much they crafted a good movie. And I'm very thankful for that. But that being said, there is a section of, I don't even call it a section. This is the entire internet. There are people out there that went to see this movie, and more of what I was just talking about went in spoiled, came out and said it sucked. These people went in and said it sucked, and were saying things like it was worse than the prequels, and things like that, things of that nature, that it was just terrible, and it was just fan service, and it was like, okay, first of all, yes, it's fan service.
What's wrong with that?
This is exactly what fans fucking wanted in 1999 when The Phantom Menace came along. Yeah. They wanted a good Star Wars movie.
And it's left a perfect thing to build on for the subsequent movies.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, it didn't answer all the questions. I'm like, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It gives you somewhere to go in the sequels. If you have a completely well-contained movie in a series, you're not going to be interested in seeing any others.
More. Tell me more about these people. More.
You don't know everything about Rey. You don't know everything about Finn. What's going to happen now that Han Solo's not in the story? What's going to happen now that Luke is back in the story? And what's going to happen with Kylo Ren? What's he going to do now? And I want to know.
They have another hissy fit.
Probably. And Emperor Snoke. Snoke? Is it Snoke? Okay, Snoke. I want to say Snook, like Snooky.
Yeah, no.
But Snoke, Emperor Snoke. I want to know more about Emperor Snoke and what his whole deal is and where he comes from and stuff. That's interesting.
That was something that I noticed when we saw it, that I didn't like how Snoke looked, and I thought, oh no. But then he's a hologram, so I thought, okay, he may not look that bad in real life.
Yeah. That was interesting. Yeah, that it was like an intimidation tactic. That's how I saw it.
So giant, big.
To be big. Yeah. Yes. In reality, he's not really that big.
No, he's probably like Yoda size.
That would be funny, wouldn't it? You find out that he's just a little tiny
little
person.
Shrimpy guy, you know how little shrimpy guys tend to have to overcompensate for their lack of height. So.
But anyways, the story of Star Wars is that if you go by the prequels, is that Anakin wipes out the Jedis with the help of Emperor Palpatine and becomes Sith. And he is redeemed by his son in the original trilogy and wipes out the Emperor eventually. And then this new movie takes place, I don't know, like 15, 30 years.
30 some odd, I think.
Something like that, so many years later. And it tells the story of this stormtrooper who doesn't want to do what he's doing, and he tries to run away from it. And eventually he's helped by this young girl named Rey, who I have the mad hots for.
I know, she's adorable.
She is. And she,
she's a badass girl.
She's a badass girl, and she's pretty, and she's British, and she's a whole lot of stuff. Yeah, she's great. I don't care that she's like 10 years younger than me.
Well, just forget it.
I try to forget about that and just focus on it. It's like I love her.
Great.
I think she's also part of the reason I keep going back. But anyways,
it's so refreshing for a female to be the hero, and then to not have anything made about her femininity and the fact that she's a hero. She is. I mean, nobody talks about it really.
There's a couple of times when he's like trying to hold her hand, and she's like, "Stop holding my hand."
Yes.
And he goes to try to help her when she's getting beat up, and she takes care of it herself. And he's like, "Oh." Yeah. And then he asks her at one point if she has a boyfriend. She tells him that's none of his business.
Yes.
So I mean, those are little minor details that they have to get out of the way, but it's not even a get back in the kitchen thing. It's just a human thing. They haven't made a huge deal about, oh, you can't do that, you're a girl. Yeah.
I have seen people bitch about the fact that she, can I say spoiler? I mean,
I'll say him.
When she, at the end, when she beats Kylo Ren and how good she is.
Yeah.
And people have said, but it was bullshit. She's had to survive on her own all of her life, and fend off all kinds of we don't know what throughout her life. And so she is capable and strong, and then she does have the Force that she doesn't even know she has. That it's gone back to being a spiritual soul type thing instead of weird little critters in your DNA.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about that whole thing. Everybody was talking about how terrible it was that this person that has no previous experience as a Jedi suddenly beats up this well-trained Sith. He's not really. I don't think he's a Sith Lord. He's still in training. But he's a Sith nonetheless, and he's like a knight, and he's been trained and stuff. But I think the point is that he's weak.
Okay. Yeah, I was reading a thing yesterday that was talking about. He got, of course, hit with Chewie's bowcaster, and how in the previous scenes when the bowcaster was used, it threw people across the way. It was a powerful weapon, and it didn't even do anything except bring him down to his knee.
I never thought about that.
Yeah,
that's great.
And so, a good portion of his strength has been drained because he's injured. But he's also, we saw with the two scenes where he had the hissy fits, he's unpredictable and not in command of all of his faculties. So the fact that he has all this power, he doesn't know how to harness it yet.
Yeah.
And he's violent and emotional, which is actually more feminine traits that just thought of. They accuse women of being hysterical and too emotional, but if anybody is, he's more that way than she is. She's very centered and in control of herself.
And I think that's the point, is that she with no training is more focused, as a more focused person with in touch with the Force than he is.
Yeah, he's kind of all over the place because he's got anger, so much anger in him, and he's just kind of like a boiling pot, and it's just a mess.
Yeah. He's there's things in this movie that happen that are heartbreaking. But I was talking to Bill about this. Of course, everybody knows that Kylo Ren kills Han Solo in this movie. And Harrison Ford has been wanting to die since Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Or in Empire or something. You know, he's like, I don't think that this character really has anywhere to go. He's like, you should just kill him off. And it would be very powerful because it would make you worry about what's going to happen to all the other characters if you kill one of the main characters off like that. And yes, that's true.
It's a good plot point, but damn it makes us sad.
Yeah, it really. I knew it was coming too.
Oh, I did too.
When he noticed, Kylo Ren walking out onto that bridge platform, that
I knew that.
I knew what was going to happen.
Yes.
I felt it in my blood. I was like, he's going to kill him, and
it was a very powerful scene.
It was really good. It was no music, no nothing. The music didn't kick in until he actually stabs him with the lightsaber. Yeah, and he did it, and it was like dirty pull. It was like, you know.
Because I think for a brief second Han thought he reached his son.
That was the point.
Yes, and it was all going to be okay. That
was the point. No. Yeah, that he thought he was going to try to save him from being
E-Bill.
But anyways, yeah, that scene was really great. But also, it's one of those things that it gives you somewhere to go. Rey needs motivation.
Yes. In
the sequels. If Han Solo didn't die, and she had that fight with Kylo Ren, it wouldn't have as much emotion behind it. No,
because
and she would have nothing to go on in the sequels because she has no personal connection with him. So it has to happen. It had to happen. I hated that it happened, but it had to happen.
And the relationship with Rey and Han, it would have developed very quickly.
Yeah.
And there really wasn't a whole lot of dialogue about it. Right. But he just absolutely respected her abilities with repairing the ship and the fact that she knew about him in the first place. And it was neat. I mean, it was just to kind of almost blink and you miss it type stuff. Just throw away little lines here and there, but it really made them have an intermeshed relationship that when he did die and she witnessed it, she did want to avenge him just as much as Chewie did.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, for the people that complain about things not being well set up in this movie, you need to go back and watch it again because everything is very well set up. The relationship between Rey and Han, like you were just talking about, is very well set up. When he finds them hiding in the Falcon, he says, "Where's the pilot?" And she's like, "I was the pilot." And he's like, "You were the pilot?" That's the start. Yes. That's the beginning of him understanding her.
Yes.
And her understanding him back.
Yes.
You know, that they understand each other and they respect each other.
Quite understated. It was just.
And for somebody that doesn't have any parents and doesn't know where her parents are, of course she's going to look to somebody like that as her father figure. Yes. You know. Well, the thing about Han is he's a smuggler, right? Mm-hmm. And he's sort of a nefarious character. Even though he's got a heart of gold. Yeah. He is a nefarious character. So here she's been exposed to nothing but characters that are nothing but nefarious.
Yes.
She comes across one character that is nefarious but also treats her with mutual respect, offers her a job, more or less.
Yes.
And she, of course, she's going to look at somebody like that. It's one of the few people in the galaxy that's ever been nice to her.
Yeah.
So she's going to be like,
and as a scavenger and having to get by on her own by the skin of her teeth, they're kind of cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
Get by the seat of your pants and do what you have to. And I absolutely loved that she could understand Chewbacca. Mm-hmm. That was just yay! Is she the new Han? I could be okay with that. She and Chewie flying all over the place in the Falcon.
She understands him. She understands BB-8.
Yeah.
And, it's just, everything in that movie is just very well set up. And that's something that they don't do in movies anymore. They don't set up things. For instance, if you watch the Transformers movies, things just happen. Like, suddenly something happens and you're like, huh, okay, that happened. But you're not like, you weren't prepared for it. Like if you're watching a movie and say somebody says, I have military training, and they say it maybe twice in 2 previous scenes. I have military training. Look, I can do military things. And then later on in the movie, there's an action scene.
Have to fly a plane or something.
Yeah, and then they show up in a plane or something because they've had military training. They don't do stuff like that in movies anymore, and it's good movie making, because it prepares you and gets you involved in the movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to nothing, where things just happen.
And you have no investment in the characters.
No, and you have lots of investment in these characters.
Oh,
These characters are perfect.
Rey is such a gift to the little girls of the world.
Yeah, little girls, women in general. I'm not a guy, and I have no problem being with my favorite action hero of the year being a woman.
No.
It's wonderful. It's great.
And really, you think about this year with both Rey and Charlize Theron and Mad Max, that this has been a really neat year for women characters in that way.
And then you have the naysayers, like, you're getting vaginas in my fucking action movies, and I'm like, go fuck yourself, every one of you, you know.
Yeah, I am not a hardcore feminist. I will watch a movie and like the guy because, oh my goodness, aren't you pretty to look at? Mm-hmm. But it's just nice, and especially when they don't make a big deal about the fact that the hero is a girl. She just is the hero, and that this is the story we're telling, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, it was a wonderful movie, and it just played out so well. And the more times I see it, the more times I'm convinced that it's one of the more well-crafted movies that came out this year. And I know a lot of people aren't going to understand that, but they didn't understand that about Star Wars or Empire when they came out. They just saw them as blockbuster popcorn movies.
Yeah.
And didn't recognize the craft until much later, especially filmmakers later on realized what well-made movies they were and how well-crafted. This is too.
Yeah, and if you talk about, oh, gee whiz, it's an awful lot like the first one, well, we kind of have to get past the stink of the prequels.
Yeah.
We have to all get in the right mood and mindset again of, okay, yeah, this is what it feels like to love this thing again.
Yeah.
And then now we build from there.
Yeah, and it's just the argument that we're repeating the same ideas again. They did that in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And nobody complained then.
A lot of sequels do that.
Yeah.
With everything. And just...
It happens. Like George is famous for saying it's kind of like poetry. It rhymes. Like when he puts the same things in previous movies, and they ended up doing the same movies in later movies and things like that. Yeah, but it is sort of it in a way. It's like, you put things in that you recognize. Like here's a bad guy in a dark cloak. We know he's a bad guy. Yeah, we've had one like that before, but
this one has an anteater mask.
Right. But it's instantly recognizable. You know who he is.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know anything about Star Wars. Let's say you don't know anything about Star Wars, and you go see Force Awakens, and you see this guy come off that carrier for the first time.
You know he's bad.
Okay, this guy's bad news, right?
Yeah.
It's just the thing, and the thing with the Starkiller base. I like the Starkiller base. I thought that was a really cool idea. But I don't think they can do it anymore after this.
No, they need to, now we need to...
Now we need to
move on to new things. But I'm totally fine with what they did so far. We have, like I said, we have to get back into the groove of the story and the feeling, and they've set it up very well.
They have.
On.
And also that, where it's a repeat of the first movie, where there's an action scene where the Empire comes in and attacks everybody, and then a droid or two goes off in the desert to find help, and they come across this person in the desert, and then they're off to their adventure.
You're right, it is the same damn movie. I've been wrong all this time.
Yeah. There's similarities, but it's a a way of telling a story, and you can't have a strong beginning like this one has without running into similarities that. It's just impossible. I know
you needed to have a solid foundation because the prequels left us all rocky and broken,
right? With things that didn't make sense,
and even total 180s, like the Force being the DNA thing.
Yeah, things that happen in the prequels that don't jive with things that happen in the original trilogy, which is technically, if you watch them in order, Obi-Wan says that Anakin was a great pilot, and I was amazed at how strong with the Force he was. He didn't like him at first, and also he said that he took it upon himself to train Anakin, but he only in the prequels it's revealed that he trained Anakin because of a promise to Qui-Gon. So the things, they don't make sense, but the similarities. The only thing that's the major similarity that does is like a small little dent in a perfect car is the Starkiller base. Yes, it's the same idea again of a giant.
But like you said, they already did that with.
Yeah, they did it once before, and it's sort of like. But I like how they handled it because it's like, okay, here's the Death Star. And they showed a hologram of the Death Star, and then they show the Starkiller base, and it's like,
and it's huge,
and it's enormous, and everybody gasps and stuff. And Han Solo's like, okay, so how do we blow it up?
Yeah, because they always have a weakness,
right?
And there's always a hole.
It's
in
great.
It. Yeah,
yeah, just get to the point,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and that's great. And I love that that's in there. Where Han Solo is just the practical one. He's like, okay, there's always a way to blow these things up, so how do we blow it up?
Yeah.
You know. That's great. I mean, and the way this movie ends with Luke at the end, that was a thing when the trailers came out and Luke wasn't in any of the trailers. Everybody's like, where's Luke? And there's a reason for that, because he doesn't show up until the very final moments of the movie with a promise that he will be in the sequels.
Yeah. But I don't understand. I've heard that he had to lose several pounds and he's, in a cloak, he could be completely fat under there. We never know.
Yeah, I agree. All he had to do was grow the beard.
Yeah.
And the beard he did grow. That was a big, impressive beard that he had.
Yes, he did.
I also want to know what's up with his hand.
It's all metallic, metal-y skeleton.
Yeah, if you see it in the original trilogy, he has... it looks like a regular hand.
Yeah.
And I think at one point he gets shot in the hand, and so some of it's a little exposed, like the workings underneath. But in the Force Awakens, suddenly it's just an all metal hand.
He's off by himself, being all hermity and such. So maybe he messed it up somehow and hasn't been around anybody to fix it.
Yeah, that's true. Or it's like deteriorated. Over time,
plasticky flesh, silicone stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Messed up.
I never thought about that. That's a good point. You're smart.
Thank you.
But it's a terrific movie, and it's doing bukus of money right now.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the number 2 movie domestically right now. It will surpass it by next week sometime, if not sooner. And I've gone to see it 3 times. I'm planning on going and seeing it again at some point. I will see it as many times as possible, just because it's a magical movie.
And each subsequent screening has been more crowded than the previous, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of people, no matter what time of day it is.
The first one we went to, which it was in a less populated section of town than...
Yeah, and a less populated theater than usual.
And so there were still empty seats in the first time we saw it.
Yeah.
But then when we've seen it subsequent times, it's been packed at other theaters.
Yeah, I guess we should point that out. The first time we saw it at a regular theater, the Macrelis Cinemark Theater. Saw it in 2D because I didn't care about 3D. I didn't care about seeing it that way because usually 3D doesn't work for me all that much. But I think that's just my brain.
Sometimes it makes you sick.
Yeah, and sometimes it makes me sick, depending on the movie. So we saw it there, and then when we went back, I said, okay, since I'm going to go see this again, I want to see it as many ways as possible. And at the Palladium, at IMAX Palladium, I was like, let's go see it in 3D on an IMAX screen and see if it makes a difference. Personally, I didn't think it made much of a difference.
It didn't.
But it didn't make me sick or anything. The only time I felt a little ill was during the trailers.
Yes, the trailers bothered me too.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
I think because the trailers don't have as much time spent on them to make the adjustments to make them look as good as they can in 3D. Maybe.
But the 3D didn't add a thing for me at all.
No,
so
it didn't.
It didn't take away from anything either.
No.
But it was just, if you don't want to spend the money to go out and see it in 3D, 2D's just fine.
Yeah. Well, personally, the 3D glasses are kind of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're one-size-fits-all glasses because that's the way it works. I mean, you have to if you're going to hand out glasses like that, you've got to make them one-size-fits-all.
I never thought about that, but I wonder, do they have a kid size? What do you do if you're taking your little kid to see it?
Maybe they have a kid size. I don't know. But as far as adults go.
Yeah.
But they probably do. I never thought about it.
Yeah,
but they probably do.
You go take your 5-year-old to see this movie, and
Obviously,
the glasses fall off his face.
Obviously, we don't have kids, so we don't know these things.
Have kids.
We have dogs.
We have
They're kids enough.
fur children.
Furry children we have running around downstairs. But anyways, yeah, the glasses, like, they're just big, huge frames that sit on the end of your nose. They're dark, and you can see outside of the frames.
Peripherals.
Your peripherals. So you're constantly seeing outside of that. So part of me, it's not working because I can't see. I can't see the 3D's not working for me properly. If the glasses wrapped around my eyes, it might work better. I don't know.
And sometimes you're not going to be focused directly dead center of the screen.
Yeah.
And if you look off to the side without moving your head, it messes up the 3D. For me, it did anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they pressed really hard on my temples, and I was afraid they were going to give me a massive headache, but they didn't. But yeah,
they're uncomfortable.
I'm not a big 3D person.
I'm not either, and that's mainly because of the glasses. I think for me, I think that's the main reason, and also the price. The price is always more. It's always like a few bucks more, and I'm like, I don't need 3D. In my opinion, 3D is not necessary to see a movie. You should be able to watch a movie in any way, whether it's in a theater, whether it's in 3D or not, whether it's on a TV, whether it's on a tablet or a phone. Doesn't matter. If the movie's good, it shouldn't matter how you view it.
Yeah.
But
you think about when 3D was popular in the 80s, and you watch those movies like, what was the Friday the 13th that was in 3D?
Friday the 13th Part 3, I believe.
And 3 in 3D.
Yeah.
And Jaws 3 in 3D.
Yeah.
And
it was a gimmick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you see this, watching it now in 2D, you see the shots that were gratuitously made specifically because it's going to come and get you.
Yeah.
It takes you out of it, and it's silly. You just, okay, this thing is going to come flying in my face now.
Yeah, but now they're at a point where they release everything in 3D.
Yes,
and
it's more subtle.
And they don't shoot for it.
Yeah.
You don't have those obvious effects like you were just talking about, like the shark coming out of the screen.
Yeah.
And
or the machete flying at your face or whatever,
or the old man in Friday the 13th Part 3 when he's got a little eyeball and he sticks it at the screen.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It's just laughable now to watch it because they just...
I watched the home video version of Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D that they put out on DVD, and it didn't work. It looked terrible, and it may be just because of the format and everything, it didn't work.
Yeah,
the 3D didn't work.
I've watched Jaws 3 when it was on one of the TV channel Stars or one of those.
Yeah.
It just looks really bad. But then when we went to see it at the Draft House, I mean, it's a bad movie, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's enjoyable.
It's a fun, bad movie.
Yeah. It's nothing like the fourth one. Fourth one's kind of fun, but it's also the hardest one to watch of the bunch.
Yeah.
Just having Mario Van Peebles running around with a Jamaican accent, and he gets eaten by the shark, but he's not really dead.
Yeah. And Michael Caine. I mean, Michael Caine always makes things fun.
It's a silly movie. And you can understand why they stopped making them. They were talking about making another one, or there was rumors that they were going to make a new reboot Jaws.
I could possibly be on board with that.
Well, Steven Spielberg came out and just squashed those rumors. He said that's not true at all.
Well, good for him too.
Yeah.
Because the first one, it still holds up. It's still, and it's mostly because you don't see the shark very much.
Yeah, that's why that movie was so successful. You don't show the shark; you just know it's down there somewhere.
And the suspense, but nowadays people have lost sight of how scary suspense can be.
Yeah,
you don't have to see everything and have it in your face and shoved down your throat.
But it's funny about Jaws is because it's sort of like a thriller for the first 2 acts of the movie, and then it turns into this adventure story about 3 guys going off to hunt a shark.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different movie after that. It's just kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, shall we wrap up for
I think so. I think we've talked about everything. Again, go see this movie, and if you've only seen it once and you have problems with it, go see it again and think about what we talked about the setups and the payoffs and everything, because you got to take that stuff into consideration. And if you went into the movie spoiled to death on it,
or if you have problems with a black stormtrooper or a girl hero,
well, if you have a problem with that, you're just fucking racist. That's just all there is to it.
And sexist too, while you're at it.
Well, sexist and racist,
misogynistic,
all kind of blend nowadays. Where it's just like, I hate everybody that's not white,
and
manly. With anybody that's not white and doesn't have a penis, I don't subscribe to that. You know, it's dumb. But the internet has become a breeding ground of fanboy not just fanboy wank, but also fanboy trying to tear everything down that's good about anything. Even a movie that's not good has some aspect to it to appreciate. Like, for instance, I was talking dog shit about the Transformers. Transformers have kind of amazing CGI effects.
Yeah.
And that's a positive aspect. I can sit here and talk about Transformers and how
neat they look.
How neat they look. They do. They
They
look really neat.
They look just like what you would have imagined in your head as a little kid, what you played with.
Yeah, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're the worst movies ever.
No,
they're not.
They have very weak stories.
They have very weak stories that are, and even though that everything looks neat, I can't tell one character from the next as far as the Transformers are concerned. So when they're fighting, I'm like, okay, who's punching who?
Yeah.
And then there's the opposite side of the spectrum, where I can watch a good movie and I can see flaws, but if the movie's good, if the sum is greater than the parts, then the flaws don't matter that much.
Right.
But there's internet sections, nitpicky little shits,
angry boys
that they get angry about everything, and they pick apart everything that's good, or pick apart anything that's bad about something that's good.
I guess, does it make them feel important?
It makes it's armchair criticism. Armchair film criticism is what it is, and where everybody thinks that they can be a film critic and just...
I could do a better job than that.
Right. They think they know how Hollywood should be run, and they think they know everything about filmmaking, and it's a horse shit. It's just people with opinions that they want to voice them, but their opinions are... It's not that their opinions, I'm all for letting somebody voice their opinion.
These are our opinions.
These are our opinions, yes. But when
they attack people. And
yes,
you specifically have a circumstance of that.
Yes, I did. I added somebody to my Facebook that private messaged me. I had commented on something on some page or something, and he asked me if we could be friends, and he was very nice about it, and I said sure. And we didn't really talk at all. And then one day, after Star Wars came out, and I was glowing, when I was just raving about how much I loved the movie. He didn't say it directly to me, but he just started attacking people for liking the movie. Mm. And so I told him...
Basically implying you were sucking JJ's cock and shit like that.
Well, that was the private message.
Okay.
Yeah, that he said, the people are terrible for liking this movie. You're just sheep.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Drink the Kool-Aid and all that stuff. And so I told him that I said, I've got to delete you. I'm sorry. But, you're just a negative person and I don't need you in my life. And then he sent me that private message.
That was really, really ugly.
Ugly and awful and was unwarranted. I never replied. I never said anything back to him. I just blocked him.
Yeah.
And I reported him to Facebook. I don't know if Facebook did anything about it, but I reported him.
But yeah, it's the people that, okay, you didn't like the movie. That's fine. You talk about it on your own page. That's fine too. Mm-hmm. But don't come after people that did like it.
Yeah,
and when women get that a lot with the internet. As soon as a woman expresses her opinion about a video game or something, she tends to get attacked and death threats and horrible things.
And it's fucking terrible.
And it's wrong and childish and stupid.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just like, I value, I'm standing on my high horse over here or something, but I value women's opinions just as much as men's opinions.
We have every right to say what our opinions are too. Yeah.
So anyways, please, give
it a chance if you haven't seen it.
Our 2 cents isn't going to matter in the long run, but please, nobody's going to, this is not going to change the world, but we can just put our thing out there about this. It's just stop attacking people for their opinions, internet. I'm looking at you on the talkbacks at Ain't It Cool News. I would say the people over at Chud, but actually that was some of the writers that was over there attacking people, but never mind. We won't get into that because I know I have some mutual friends that used to write for that site, and I don't want to attack anybody.
Stir the hornet's nest.
Yeah, well, whether or not they hear me or not, I just don't want to talk about it. It's not.
Don't go there.
It's not nice. But anyways, go see the movie. Go see it multiple times. See it as many times as you can. Give that movie.
Have a little girl take her.
Have a little girl take her. Have a little boy take her. Anybody can go see this movie and enjoy it. It's just a really good movie. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. This is a multi-generational, multi-age movie. It really is, and those don't come along too often.
No.
When they do, they're usually not as well made as this one is, and I will defend it to my dying breath that this is a really well made movie. And I guess that's all I've got to say. Do you have anything else to say?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess we're done.
Okay.
Next time we've got some other things to talk about. We also caught
The Hateful Eight.
The Hateful Eight and the 70mm screening.
That was great.
Yeah. But we'll get into that next time. And I think we also should do, since it's, past the new year, we can talk about movies in 2015 that we really liked.
Oh, okay.
We have a few of those.
Yeah.
Star Wars would be on that list, obviously, for me.
Yeah.
But there's lots of other movies that came out this past year. We didn't see a whole lot of them in the theaters, but we saw them eventually. But we'll talk about that next time. So for now, I'm Tim.
I'm Teresa.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.